What if I told you that there is a golf course that I can probably guarantee that you have never heard of, that is so important in the game of golf, in the history of American golf, and the history of world golf that probably Tiger Woods would not exist without it? He would exist without, his parents, but he would not be the Tiger Woods that we know in golf. Maybe he would, probably not though. But to understand that argument, where I'm coming from, we had to hear about one golf course, one man, and we're gonna speak to a few people that know much more about it than I do. So let's go. The name of that course is Let me jump in real quick. I gotta say something. This story is not about the course, but it is. Now this course is only 9 holes, but it's fun, it's tight, good elevation, very fun, small course. But that's it, it's a small course, and you may be wondering, how do 9 holes have such an impact on the world of golf? Well, let's learn about that.
Larry Hogan, Dr. Lawrence Hogan.
Kevin Glover.
Hello, I'm Malcolm Nettingham.
I'm Jim Chacchiel.
Gary Jones.
Tom Donatelli. This building was built in the year 1750. And during those years, it was a farmhouse. It was called the Tucker Farmhouse. It became an inn. It became a tavern. At one point, it was purchased by a group of people who turned it into a golf course. In the early 1900s, it became the Westfield Country Club.
Some financiers from New York, black men who had made some money on their own right in various enterprises, decided that they would establish a club that would be a golf club, a tennis club, a racket club, a horseback riding. So it was really a country club was established.
I saw Althea Gibson. At one time, there was a tennis course here, and I would see Althea Gibson. She played tennis there, and she won the Wimbledon over in England, and we were all very proud. It was really a source of pride, just being associated, being able to see Black history, see American history.
The country club started to get people involved, and they started to have some jazz musicians, and people like Ella Fitzgerald would play here, and Sarah Vaughan, Cab Calloway. We understand that Louis Armstrong played here. We don't really have any facts about that. We're trying to find more information to see if Louis Armstrong actually came here and played here. But the fact is that he was very close to Ella Fitzgerald, so we suspect that more than likely Louis Armstrong spent some time here over the years.
Well, most people don't know and didn't know, and even today, it doesn't get the recognition that he was the first American professional golfer, not African American professional golfer. And he was of Indian descent too, but he was the first American professional golfer. And that at 16 years old, he played in the US Open.
The incident in 1896, John Shippen would end up playing in the tournament in 1896, the US Open, most prestigious tournament in the nation. Even back then it was. There was an incident where some Scottish pros, in 1895 was the first US Open, and it was basically Englishmen and Scottish pros. In 1896, those professionals, it was obviously a prejudicial reason. Where they picked it up is always intriguing to think about. They decided that John Shippen and his friend Oscar Boone, a Native American, I always kind of laugh at the fact that the first 2 people, Americans, to play in the US Open, one was a Native American and one was a black man. We know what follows on that in terms of Native Americans and black men. And here it is right at the beginning of golf in this country picking up. These players signed a petition saying that they would not play if Shippen played and Oscar Boone played. A fellow named Overmeyer, he was a major official in the U.S. golf organization at the time, and Overmeyer said,
They said, we're not playing unless he plays, and he played.
So he pushed for them to play, and they did. And John Shippen had a wonderful U.S. Open that year. He came close to winning it. tied for the lead into the second round, and on the 11th hole, I think it is, he hit into a sand trap off the sand road off the main golf course, the fairway, and didn't have a sand wedge in his, I don't know whether there were sand wedges back then, didn't have a sand wedge to get off that road, and took an 11 on that road. And that was the thing that did him in. He ended up, I think, 5 strokes back, if I'm not mistaken, and lost the Open. He could easily have won it. Well, John Shippen became a teaching pro, taught many of the major figures in American finance at the time. J.P. Morgan was one of them, and continued at Shinnecock, where he was a professional. He took money from the 1896 U.S. Open, the munificent sum of $10, but that in turn made him a pro because he got money to play. And through the years after the Open, he competed in several other Opens, but never quite the quality of that first Open. Good golf he played, but not quite as good as he had played in that first Open. And then ultimately ended up here at Shady Rest. It was called Shady Rest at that point in time.
I grew up as a teenager caddying at the Shady Rest Country Club here, as it was known at that time.
I was a little kid, I grew up, I wasn't allowed to come over across this golf course, but I did anyway. So I came across the golf course, I caddy over here, I had to get my golf balls out the woods and stuff.
And it was a common knowledge that this was the first African-owned and operated country club in the United States. I saw this as a place of great pride because as a black youth, I had access to making money here as a caddy. When there were great tournaments here at the Shady Rest Country Club, I would see great number of cars parked in the parking area, and I knew that I could make some bucks at that time.
When we was little, we used to see the place was packed. Plains Avenue was packed with cars and stuff. And we used to sit there, little kids, watch the tournaments and stuff. And we used to run across the street and like, wow.
We had what we call shagging balls right here on this golf course. We would shag balls. We would go through the swamps. There was a swamp here. Stray balls would go into the swamp. We would go into that swamp and look for stray balls because the golfers, once a ball went to the swamp, they wouldn't go to retrieve their balls.
I used to stick my hands in the water and get the golf balls out and sell them back to the people was out here and stuff.
We used to fish balls out of the pond and sell them to the people golfing. It was probably what I consider my first job. Working, playing there, and then we would sometimes sneak on the course, and if we had a few bucks, we'd come play the course.
I remember one incident where it was a real nice ball, and I said, wow, this is a nice ball. I cleaned it up, and I sold it for the great amount of 35 cents. At that time, 35 cents was a great amount of money, because when we caddied, I believe that when we caddied, we earned $1 for the 9 holes, and once we caddied, we were supposed to, I believe, give the golf pro or the caddy master some of our earnings. And the golf pro and the caddy master was Mr. Shippen. I remember early in the mornings, he would be out there. He was a green sweeper. He would sweep the greens with a long bamboo pole, preparing the greens. He made sure the greens were in tip-top shape.
There was a lot of us kids out here, you know. It was a great place growing up. It was a great place because he used to have us, you know, they used to have us on the golf course playing golf. You know, we used to play golf a little bit, and they had the shag field down there and stuff. But it was really a blessing to be up here and meet the people that I met when I was a little kid. And I enjoyed it. You know, I enjoyed it.
Like many golf clubs, Shady Rest fell into despair. But it was restored. So, how was it restored?
At the time Kevin Glover became mayor, this building was in disarray and it was about to be torn down, et cetera, et cetera. So at one point it was 2013 and he pulled me and my whole committee away from our tasks to get involved with the Preserve Shady Rest Committee.
We undertook restoring this building. Over objections from members of the council, for people, citizens, they felt it wasn't a good use of the township's resources. But the day when I pass this building and I see this living museum in that it contains a wonderful history, but it also is functional. It's used by our seniors every week and other groups for our concerts, for weddings.
The original John Shippen committee, which we started in the late 80s going into the 90s. We had tournaments here, the John Shippen annual tournament. Thurman and Ruby Simmons started the John Shippen Memorial Foundation. My father, Mauro Cecchio, was instrumental in this with Mayor Glover on the Preserve Shady Rest. That was all started in about the last 10 to 12 years. The original Shippen stuff was 80s, 90s, 2000s. We had about 12 or 13 annuals. Right now, with Preserve Shady Rest, there's probably about 10 or 15 of us on the committee. And we're just local residents, mostly Fairwood and Scotch Plains. We've added some people in the entertainment industry are getting around us. We're starting to have jazz nights here to revive this country club, this great historical gem. It's a hidden gem. It's the first African-American country club in the United States. Plus, we have the first golf professional. And we also have the original T, which is Wendell Haskins, another big entity nationally. He runs annual tournaments, and we've become close with him this year. But our efforts are to preserve, maintain, and actually push forward the history of Shady Rest.
We got a lot of things done. We got signs made. We got the building restored.
I would really love to see us grasp and get a hold of all the people that have some of these mementos in their possession, some of the family members, second, third generations. Luckily, Mr. Nettingham's son came and talked.
We, the Preserve Shady Rest Committee, were able to get this building listed on the National Register of Historic Places. My passion toward the history of this place has really grown, and it has now become one of my passions to help recreate what this place was in its heyday.
We're looking on our second and third phases of restoring this, restoring where John Shippen lived upstairs.
A sign that nobody pays attention to, closed to the public, upstairs, is closed to the public. So let's go upstairs anyway. This upstairs, originally, during the years of Shady Rest, this area over here was the ladies' locker room, and the ladies' bathroom was in here. So what we're pretty sure is that was like a dressing area, and this was more like a social makeup area, that type of thing. We believe some of these light fixtures are original. We're planning on having these restored someday. If you can notice the air conditioning system that we have here, during the days of making the downstairs compatible to senior citizen events and that kind of thing, especially during hot weather, the town came in and put central air in this building. And not thinking at all about what the history of the building was and what these rooms could be, they just threw ductwork all through here and created this central system for the one floor that exists today. One of our goals is to renovate these floors, so goal number one is to renovate the HVAC system, utilizing more modern technology in HVAC, clean out the duct systems that they have, and renovate these areas and create it back or restore it back to what it originally was. The rooms over here were the Willis's living quarters. So what we sort of assume is that maybe some of these performers who came from New York City or from wherever, some of them came from the South and came here just to play here. Maybe they spent the night after their performance here. Maybe they spent the weekend here. We're not 100% sure on most of those stories, but we suspect that took place here. And then in a little bit later years, John Shippen came here in 1932, I believe. So at the time, this was an attic. And Shippen actually lived across the street for a period of time. Malcolm Nettingham, I don't know if he mentioned, the place where Shippen lived, but he lived in an apartment across the street while they turned this into a living quarters. And this was John Shippen's home from 1932 to 1964. And as you might be able to see, the floorboards are the same size as the floorboards down in the main lobby now. You can see the plywood over here and over here. This is where they took the boards out to create the main lobby. So these floorboards are all going to have to be restored, and we have to restore those areas. This is the John Shippen bathroom, and they have there's a name for that type of tub. I guess it was just too heavy. They were never able to take it out, and I'm glad that happened.
There was a speakeasy downstairs.
Here, we believe the speakeasy was back there. That is a relic of the original staircase that brought people down into the basement. So the door we came through didn't exist in those years. So we do have the concept of what it looked like at one time. So we want to try to reopen up those closets and turn that into the entryway to the basement. This is the original foundation of the original Tucker house. So you can see it's all fieldstone. This was how they built foundations back in those years.
My friend Renato Nehemiah, famous track star from back in the 70s and 80s, we were fascinated at our 40th high school reunion how he and Mark Shaman, who's a famous composer, did not know about that. I want to get them back here. I want to get President Obama here to see it with Tiger Woods. And I think we can do that. I think we're going to find a way to get the pros to come play here. They'll probably play it more as a part 3. And they would really get us to that next level. There's a lot of local people that really want to give back to the town. They love the history, and we're all in our elder ages where we get to have this fun.
I've been probably played 40 times here in the last 2 months, so it's been great.
What is your favorite hole here?
That is a great question. This one's super fun. You know, I like 7 here. Honestly, you can't really go wrong. I mean, you know, you can find yourself hitting quite a few good shots, and everything's pretty much in play if you can kind of keep it straight, and it's a lot of fun.
So as you can see, there's a lot of potential work that needs to take place in order to recreate Shady Rest Country Club and bring it back to its glory days.